Thank you very much. Mr. Posey?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The far-reaching tentacles of the proposed Consumer Financial Protection Agency would appear to have almost completely unfettered jurisdiction over advertisement, marketing, solicitation, sale, disclosure, delivery, or account maintenance, or supervising of deposit-taking activities, extension of credit, loan acquisition, brokering or servicing, real estate appraisal, title insurance, credit insurance, mortgage insurance, real estate insurance services, including title insurance, leasing of personnel or real property, acting as an agent, broker, or advisor in such activity, credit reporting services, guaranteed check services, money transaction, business services, stored value instruments, i.e. debt cards, certain financial data processing, transmission and storage services, debt collection services, investment service not subject to SEC or CTFC regulations, financial advisory services, credit counseling or tax planning or preparation, financial management advice, financial custodial services, and numerous other financial activity-related services specifically identified by some rule that they would develop, which my staff has not been able to ascertain yet because that remains unclear. And so to paraphrase in another context exactly what Congressman Hensling said before, just what exactly is acceptable? Or do we want this agency to list every possible transaction in detail that's acceptable and then figure out every possible transaction and list it in detail as being unacceptable? I mean, do we want to turn into omnipresent defenders of non-existent problems not suffered by 90% of the people? I mean, can't we focus a little bit better on precisely maybe a standard of care that should be offered by somebody that's in these positions of fiduciary relationships with clients rather than kind of turning the entire business world upside down to try and so broadly brush the choices that people have? And I see all of you anxiously jumping over your buttons. So, Mr. Plunk, if you could have a minute, and then we'll give Mr. Taylor a minute.
Thank you. For the most part, the new agency doesn't get new authority. They get new authority in one area, but this is authority that exists under 17 existing federal laws or is very similar to Unfair and Deceptive Act and Practices authority the Federal Trade Commission has, or it is regulated at the state level. It's mostly a consolidation. It's a streamlining, actually. It's not a new layer of bureaucracy at all. And it's a minimum standard. So the states, where necessary, and I think in many cases they won't find it necessary, could exceed if there's a local problem.
You don't anticipate any new rules being written?
Well, I think the idea is that first and foremost it'll do research. It'll be focused solely on consumer protection, and rules should follow good empirical knowledge of the marketplace. If we'd had that on subprime loans, for example, we might have seen some rulemaking earlier on.
Yeah, I agree. I think all you're talking about is having a consumer protection agency that essentially enforces the laws that this Congress and various Congresses and presidents have signed. Yes, there'll be rulemaking as there is for any other agency, but this Congress as well will have an impact on that if you perceive that they go too far or not too far. I mean, that's the way the system works. But let me just, this notion...
Now, let me just say, the question that begs for an answer,
yes.
Just back to Mr. Blunkett's response, why do we expect a new agency of bureaucrats to do the exact same jobs, he said, that 17 agencies of bureaucrats have failed to do properly before? Right. What is it about this new brand of bureaucrat that we're going to have?
Sure.
That
I
is
hope they address that.
That's going to get up every day, and instead of looking for a job description, they're going to actually do a job.
Fair question. And I think the difference is you will actually have an agency whose primary focus is to ensure that the American taxpayer, the consumers, their interests are protected, as opposed to worrying about the bank or worrying about...
So in the sake of streamlining, as Mr. Plunkett said, do you agree then if we have this new agency with these all-inclusive powers, which are really just powers previously delegated to other agencies, we can now get rid of the 17 other agencies?
No, they have other functions to serve. Obviously, the bank regulators, monetary policy, safety and soundness, other very important roles to play. But clearly, this has been the stepchild legislation. That's why we had all this predatory and abusive lending, and that's what this is aimed to stop. And I just want to for Mr. Hensling as well, none of us are opposed to competition, and I think competition will remain robust. But we should have a free market that has a rule of law in it that ensures fairness and doesn't allow for a free market that's free to abuse and free to fraud and free to do things that hurt consumers. And I think that's what this agency gets at.
Well, and I think we agree, but somebody needs to define pure vanilla, and the agencies that have those authorities now, thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chairman, should be capable of doing that, we think.
Yeah, I wish that were true, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Milward?